that's the need that we're really trying to address with and for farmers, is how do you get information as and when you need it in the format that works for you. Human intent is needed to actually bring these solutions to life. Like someone still has to say the use of AI can be for something like this. That in the language of the content that we're giving the bot, is there an inherent gender bias, which very often, like I was mentioning, there is.
Imagine that the earth is an apple. The skin of the apple, and only the skin, nothing else, equates the total fertile soil available for us to grow food for the 8 billion people of this world. It is therefore obvious that agricultural issues require robust and urgent solutions. But how do you constantly reinvent solutions when problems only keep increasing, especially in the context of climate change, which is threatening every ecosystem known to humankind? Join us as we explore such nuances in this episode of Impact Dialogues, a conversation series where change makers join us to share their stories of impact. For today's episode, we're joined by Dr. Namita Singh. She's a research scholar working at the intersection of social development and digital tech. In her current role as Director of User Experience at Digital Green, she has been central in developing climate-resilient solutions that help smallholder farmers get real-time advisory support for their unique farm needs. Thank you so much for joining us, Namita. It's a pleasure to have you here. My first question is about the work that Digital Green does. I'm aware of farmers.chat and the chatbot that it is, so that it helps smallholder farmers get real-time advisory support. But what I'm curious about is the process, because I am aware that it was a collaborative effort between the farmers and the development team who worked on the bot.
So before I talk about like how we developed and are developing farmer.chat, and talk a little bit about Digital Green as well. So we are a tech nonprofit organization who's been working for around 15 years now in agriculture and livelihoods sector, primarily with government partners as well as with other nonprofit organizations as well. So core value of our organization's always been being farmer-centric, and in our earlier work as well, what we were really focusing on was content, advisory content that is really relevant for farmers themselves. So sort of bridging the gap between the scientific knowledge, the immense scientific knowledge that exists out there, and what the farmers actually need in a way that they can understand, in a way that's relevant for them and makes sense for them. So it was like building that link between the farmers' reality and the scientific community. It started off with community-based video production, where farmers themselves featured in the videos. They were actually explaining practices that worked for them. The videos were being disseminated by frontline extension workers who are often farmers themselves. So it was all like I was mentioning, a farming community-based content creation and dissemination setup that we had. We started off with videos. Then during the pandemic, we started actually experimenting with other technologies that were available, such as chatbots, even something as seemingly simple as WhatsApp groups. Because at that time, community members couldn't really come together in a group to watch a video, right? So what we needed was a medium or a tool through which we can still reach farmers, continue to reach farmers, and provide them the support that they needed. And developing farmer.chat is the next step in that journey that we've had sort of so far. And we continue to be farmer-centric, like I was mentioning earlier, starting with our video work to now as well. So we do not see them as people who we need to sort of transfer knowledge to, but also as people who have knowledge themselves, right? Like they are the ones who know best what's working for them and what is not. And having that loop of farmers being able to voice actually what their need is, what kind of changes they want, what practices are working for them, what information they need, and then the technical or subject experts being able to really provide solutions to those particular needs, right? So that's the kind of loop that we're sort of like looking at establishing. And even in farmer.chat, that's again at the core of it. So it's not again just sharing advisories, technical scientific advisories with them, but farmers also being able to provide data in the form of feedback, saying that this advisory is actually relevant for me, or this advisory simply doesn't sort of work for me. And what the technology is enabling now is real-time feedback, right? Like the real-time data that we're getting, and that makes changing or modifying the advisories to be more customized and personalized, again in a quicker sort of a basis. So at the core of it, I think like that's the need that we're really trying to address with and for farmers, is how do you get information as and when you need it in the format that works for you and is easily understandable for them as well.
So tech for farmers by the farmers, essentially.
Yes, absolutely.
In that line of thought, agriculture has gone through so many phases of revolution, right? But the one that we're facing, that we have right now in the form of artificial intelligence, has a lot of potential because it can transcend the issues that other revolutions may have faced. For example, you had chemical pesticides. They increased crop yields, but they also degraded the soil quality. But with AI algorithms, you can have a soil sample, you can analyze it, and exact nutritional composition you can get these days, and then do what you will with that information, right? So I'm curious, what are your thoughts about the trajectory that AI will take in agricultural revolution when compared to these other technologies that had come that were successful but not sustainable?
So I think at the AI end of the day is still just a tool. It's a technology tool. What is really important is the intent behind it, right? But definitely what it's made possible to what he was saying is that when there is a large amount of data, the ability to analyze that data very quickly and then being able to come up with solutions which are based in data and evidence. So in the video era, which was like, now 1.5 decades ago, if a farmer provided feedback that something did not work for them, someone would have to document it, right? Then that would take its own time to get digitized. Then there would be someone else, a data analyst, who'd be looking at all of this and analyzing it. And a lot of times this would be qualitative data as well, right? And then it will go to a technical expert who would then translate it into some other technology or some other practice that might work for the farmer. So it was a pretty big loop as well. And this is on just maybe 1 or 2 parameters. We were working again much more recently on, to what you were saying, soil analysis, right? So if your soil analysis says a particular thing, then how much fertilizer should you really apply, right? So discouraging overuse of fertilizers, which is usually the case. So just analyzing that one parameter for each individual farmer and being able to give a customized advisory without AI is a huge task. There is a lot of human effort involved. But now with AI, what's possible is that you can look at the location, you can look at the exact crop stage, you can look at what the weather is going to be, what the soil parameter is. So you have the ability to combine very many different data sets and actually provide that customized advisory to that single individual farmer. So I think that is what AI can change. But again, like I said, human intent is needed to actually bring these solutions to life. Someone still has to say the use of AI can be for something like this.
Have there been instances while developing this chatbot where you experienced something close to a bias in the chatbot?
I think very pertinent question. Bias exists everywhere. As human beings, of course, all of us are biased in very different ways. Women farmers are not counted as farmers as well, right? So it actually begins from there. is the chatbot even understanding a woman as a farmer, as a legitimate farmer? Then you talk about the content itself, right? So often, even if you'd go on YouTube and you look at agricultural videos, for instance, by any content, any producer, it's often referring to farmers as kisan bhaiyon, as in, like, farmer brothers. There itself, the tone and the language of the chatbot is biased towards men as farmers. So we've had to start with things as basic as this, that in the language of the content that we're giving the bot, is there an inherent gender bias, which very often, like I was mentioning, there is. Or, for instance, if there are a package of practices, right, like these agricultural practices that are recommended for farmers to follow, oftentimes they are made with a male farmer in mind, who might have access to inputs, access to labor, access to markets, whereas a woman farmer would have very limited access to all of these things. They usually do not even have the financial resources to say, okay, let me hire some labor, right? Or let me buy pesticides or fertilizers from the market, right? They do not. And these package of practices, therefore, do not speak to these women farmers. If you recommending mechanization, for instance, a woman might not have the financial resources to buy that machinery at all. But that is the knowledge that exists in the world. That is what's there in the package of practices. There is, of course, knowledge that exists in several other undocumented kind of sources, right? Like women farmers themselves have that knowledge of what is working for them. If can I do a homemade, version of a fertilizer, for instance, that I can easily make at home itself with ingredients that are available around me, natural farming, for instance. But a lot of times they're not available in such abundance. So one is the tone of the chatbot itself, referring to farmers as men often. Second is what is there in the content. Is it really responding to women's needs? So this is just like one example of how gender biased the responses of the bot could be based on the content that we are providing, right? And again, that's something that we as an organization are trying to work a lot towards. So all the content that goes into our bot goes through a vetting process. That is it gender biased? Is it neutral? Is it gender inclusive? Second bit is about language. Right now, a lot of these models are based on English language. So you need translations to happen. The bot has to be able to understand the dialect and the language that you're speaking. Really sort of like fun example. People have this habit of eating gutka, chewing gutka, tobacco. So when they give a voice input to the bot, the bot really cannot understand what they're speaking while they're chewing gutka. It's unclear to them, right? I don't know if the bot should understand when someone's chewing gutka and still understand that. But these are the kind of realities of people's everyday lives, right? Men and women farmers both speaking in different regional languages and dialects. We are collecting that data, of course, with their consent, their voice data, and building our model based on these dialects that exist in India as well. So that's again a huge sort of like exercise as well of ensuring that our own technology is able to understand Maithili or Bhojpuri or other regional kind of like dialects as well.
I'm curious about the process of partnering with the farmers. What was their reception towards this technology? Any stories that jumped out to you, especially in the context of the pandemic? Because that was a time of upheaval for everyone, especially the farmers.
I think every solution that we build has to be embedded in the actual needs of the farmers as well, right? Like we're not building technology for the sake of technology or because it's exciting. An example is, of course, the chatbot itself, right? Like that we're building based on generative and conversational AI, and that came into picture when like ChatGPT literally, broke everything, not just the internet. For us as an organization, the first question was, okay, if this technology has come, how can it benefit the farmers, right? So we were working through WhatsApp groups. So it had become much more easy for farmers to, let's say, put in a voice note and ask a question. right? Which is not there in a normal chatbot, the types of chatbots that existed earlier, which just worked on a very simple sort of a flow. So the technology was enabling farmers to ask the questions that they wanted to at any time that they wanted to, right? And the moment they start doing that, for us, that is data. They are collaborators in that sense, that they are telling us what content gaps exist, for instance, or what information needs really are there at the ground level. And we have to utilize that data to again then be able to come back with a solution that sort of works with them. So for us, even providing feedback, asking questions is actually data which makes us learn and our chatbot quite a lot. And then it can keep improving itself over a period of time. That's how I think like we see their role as collaborators, as not just ones who are consuming information that we are providing them, but being able to also tell us what is working for them and what is not, or what gaps exist, or what is it that they really want to know about. And then, again, the solution is much more customized and personalized for them. When we started the concept testing for this chatbot, so this was in Bihar with Jivika, which is the State Rural Livelihood Mission, one of our like biggest partners that we work with. So we started experimenting with like testing the bot with few frontline workers. So frontline workers or extension agents are the ones who essentially reach farmers. So they act as assistants to farmers, if you may say so, right? Like they act as intermediaries who take that information to farmers through self-help group meetings, farmer group meetings, one-on-one interactions, etc., etc. So we are sort of like, testing this bot with them. And one of our assumptions was that male farmers or male extension agents would end up using the chatbot much more because often the early adopters of technology tend to be men, right? But our findings really surprised us. So it was women extension agents, and these are extension agents in some of the remote districts of Bihar as well, right? And they are the ones who are using the bot much more on a daily basis, asking more questions on a daily basis as well. And when we try to dig deeper of how is this kind of like happening? Why is this happening? So what we figured was that for women, it was so much more easy, and a couple of like extension agents like said it like this, that it is so much more easy to not have to call, 10 people to get information on something. They could simply either input a voice note or type and get the response to their query. They did not have to go to a meeting. Right, the women, of course, obviously have mobility issues. They've also got like household work to take care of. And here they could again access all of that information and self-train themselves just sitting at home. So it just made their life so much more easy, and they were less conscious about asking questions as well.
Asking questions is very intimidating because you're immediately in the threat of being perceived as not knowledgeable enough.
Exactly.
Instant credibility pe hit.
and that in fact like built their confidence, because they felt ki, oh, now I've got all the answers that when I go to this farmer meeting tomorrow, I know the answers to them already, right? So it also helped build their self-confidence and equip them with the knowledge that they needed to, without too much struggle of having to call so many people or having to go to a meeting, etc., etc. So yeah, I think like that's been one of the great revelations for us, that despite it being like cutting edge, future ready type of technology, how easy it was for women and how much it worked for women extension agents and farmers.
You worked at the model during a time of incredible flux in terms of laws surrounding data privacy in this country. In fact, the DPDP law, which is the Digital Personal Data Protection Law, it came out around that time. And I'm curious how that affected the process of developing the model. How do you perceive it, and do you see it changing the way that AI will be used for developing solutions in the future?
Before even like getting onto the law, at the core of it, the questions around privacy, consent, security, etc., etc. And do people even understand them really well, right? I think even you and I often do not understand it really well the moment we sign up for different applications. So I'll give an example, and this was before the law even came into place, because again, as an organization, our core belief is that if it is the data of the farmers, not only should they be able to, of course, provide their consent before it's being used, but also the use of the data should be for their purpose, right? Like something that actually serves them. So to be data owners in the true sense, where you're not just providing consent, but you're also getting the value out of sharing that data. So around a couple of years ago, and this was again during the pandemic time, when I'd mentioned we'd started moving towards technologies like chatbot, for instance, was what does consent mean for them? So we started doing like a small survey with chili farmers in Andhra Pradesh that we were working with. The term consent was so vague for them, right? And a lot of times the response that we got was that the frontline worker, right, like this extension agent, because these people are often from the community themselves, they had implicit trust in this person. So like if this person is asking me for my name and my number and my land holding, I'm going to give it to them because, you know, he or she is my neighbor. The implicit trust in that person led them to share a lot of information. Now, this extension agent, for instance, might not also know what this data would be used for further. With the coming of this law, I think one is strengthening this basic understanding amongst people of what it really means for you, right? That it is your data, it is valuable. The purpose of why that data is being collected is very, very crucial. So you collect it for one reason, right? But you end up using it for 10 other reasons as well. And that's typical behavior amongst any stakeholder, any organization which collects that data, right? Often. I think there are very few organizations who have till now been maintaining data privacy, security, consent kind of mechanisms in a very robust sort of a manner. So as an organization, of course, we're trying to work as much as we can on this, that when they're providing consent, the purpose is very clear to them. The data cannot and should not be used further for other purposes than what the person really signed up for. And sort of goes back again to what I was talking about, make them understand it in a way that makes sense to them, right? Not in a language that is too technical, too legal, that they really cannot get the meaning out of it, and you end up signing anyway because you trust an XYZ entity. So I think that, and it will, I guess, evolve as we go along as well, because again, with AI, you might collect, like I was saying, giving the example of feedback, right? So they are thinking, let's say, that I'm just giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but that is acting as data to improve my model. That is something that they might not be aware of, right? Or if I'm asking a question in voice note, that's also going towards building the model, right? So these are things I think as any organization which is working on technology, being clear from the beginning where and how any data that's provided is being used, and making sure that the person who's providing that data, it's clear to them what purpose it's actually going to be used for.
You've given us a lot of insights and a lot of things to think about, and we're very, very glad to have you here. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me here and for this conversation. Thanks.
AI has given us the data and insights we need to improve agricultural practices. But at the same time, we need to figure out how prepared we are to use this information and make sure that the benefits of AI reach the last mile communities. Let us know what you think of it in the comments below. We'll see you in the next episode.